This is my little presentation. Works in progress. So this is basically what John was sort of talking about, changing on how you choose the processors and the CAN support. It was getting kind of complicated, so I'm trying to change it. It's not in the library yet, but it's coming. And this is the same as what he was showing you. Choose your board in the config file and whether you want to talk through serial or through CAN. And then in the boards file, you could choose from, you can have definitions of different boards. So like I said, if you add another ESP32 board, I would just copy that section and change it to whatever you like. So one of the choices is the Atom, which is ESP32, but it's only got 6 outputs, so it's limited. The other thing I'm doing is the storage, which again was mentioned. So it'll be generalized. So you'll write to storage, and then you'll be able to choose what storage you want to use, whether it's internal EEPROM, external EEPROM, or external FRAM. And again, it'll use define. So you just say use external EEPROM, and it'll talk to the EEPROM. I have to worry about addressing, so I don't know what I'm going to do about that. And then I'm working on some examples too. As he said, we're extending his John's example to include a 23017. And then I'm working on 3 examples. A more generalized one that'll let you use a 23017, a PCA 9685, which is good for driving servos or LEDs. A general lighting app, which basically the same as what Bob just demonstrated, actually. And a signaling app, which basically receives events for block occupancy and turnout position, and then drives the signals. So it's a signaling app, and it sort of has some built-in logic so that the signals can be daisy chained and so on. And then, oh, and that's just showing you the library and how you can select it in the IDE, and then look at the examples, and you get it by over here. Basically, you look for OpenLCB and it'll show you that, and then you can just install it into the IDE. Oh, and that's the minima. So you can see it's a nano size. It's got the bigger processor on it. It's got a I2C socket here. I think the CAN comes out pins 4 and 5. And that's it.
Yeah, I must admit, I only saw that had come out the other day. I remember you getting some made. I was like, oh, there's another one. Uh, so that becomes, I think, is that one 5 volts or 3.3 volts though? Uh,
I think it's 5, compatible 5 volts,
yeah,
which is kind of nice, right?
yeah. If it's 5 volts, that fits nicely with the shields I use. To be honest, I'll be
Right.
right, because there's on the shields I use, there's no voltage jumper on them. For the power rails, where the ESP32 shield does have a jumper on it for changing the power rails between 3.3 and 5 volts. But
Right.
should have had a video out by now for the latest uh, bit of software we've got for the MCP 23017. That one, we've changed the. I'll just try and share screen if I can. Right. So the live where before we had a lot of stuff within the INO file, we've sort of now gone slightly different. Obviously, we've now gone for a config.h, and the idea behind that was to make it so this example here for the 23017 So it'll give us 2 servos, 24 IOs. At the moment, we've got 4 different boards this example would work on. Now, I've tried the Nano and I've tried the ESP32. Now, obviously, I'm trying to do them as like this is an example for the ESP32, and then maybe here's one for a Nano. So this will all be set up, but there's only then 2 lines of code you'd have to alter. Now, if you're using this as this is set up for CAN bus. Obviously, each node's got to have a unique ID number, so you can get your own set of ID numbers. If you're a MERG member, there's a set of numbers you can use, or you can apply for your own set of numbers. So for each new node on your bus, you change that number, go up one or whatever, and it allows, I think, 256 nodes. Then the only other thing you have to worry about is this one here, which we've mentioned in the past, changes when we first set it up, we have to have that set as a 1, and that sets up the EEPROM side of things. Once you've uploaded it, you then change that to a 0 and you'd upload again. Now, I don't want to go too much into the code because it's quite complex, but what we've done here, because you've defined it as an ESP32, obviously you tell it what board, using your board manager, you can have a little look here. So for a Nano, this is what we tried on a Nano. And I say I've not actually had that one working with the CAN, but we have this thing called GC serial, which allows us to have standalone modules, but it just shows you what pins are available. Now, the ESP32 has been a little bit of a gotcha, where I found certain pins will work because we're allowed to change it from input or output once it's been loaded up. These are the pins we can use for the 8 native pins. So you have to realize pin 14 will be for the first one, 27, 26, 32, etc. Then this is where we said what pins we're using for the RX and TX. And then down here, this is the pins that we use for the I2C for the 23017s. But I'd say the idea is if you wanted to start changing things, you could come in and mess with this. But obviously, you'd need to do some experimenting yourself. So the idea is we will be showing people this is the only file you would need to amend during if you download them off the GitHub repository, away you go.
So John,
yes,
yeah, I would suggest if they want to add a different board that they just copy one of those board definitions into a new board, like make a new board.
yes,
So like if you have a different ESP32, you just copy that one and then call it something else and then make your modifications.
yeah. Because one of the things I want to try and do is make a new board on here for the Mega, because I'm going to use the
Right.
Mega and I'd like to be able to use the MCP 23017. Even though we've got 53 pins that I know I can use, I'm still going to be a little bit short. So having an extra I2C expander would be a nice to have, but that's down the road. That'll probably be done in the next month. I think I'll have a play with that. But the
I
idea
guess
is trying to keep it as simple as we can at the moment.
I guess the question I've got for you then, David, is if someone wants to come along with another board. My inclination would be you include config.h and then you include my configs.h, or boards actually, my boards. And then if at a later stage the board you're using ends up being in your library, the person just drops out their own local board definition. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just included those board definitions in there. If you want a different board, I would just add it in there and then you just select it.
Yeah, I get what you're
That
saying.
way you have the example there to look at
Yeah,
that you're copying.
yeah, I
So
probably would
are
have
you
pulled it into
suggesting,
I would have pulled it into another file because if you guys are gonna, if this thing is here, here's this thing, and it'll run on all these boards, and someone else goes, and it'll run on this. Well, wouldn't you take their definition file? Well, you'd take their definition for that board into your boards.h file, yeah.
yeah. So right now we have that board.h file is local to the sketch, but it can go into the library, I guess.
Mm.
And
I
then
think
you could just make your own up, yeah, in your
that, that
Mm.
sketch.
there's a bit of a worry really then because you're making it a nightmare for yourself to have to do it. Obviously, we've got the examples if people want to then expand it,
Yeah,
No,
because
I
at the
get it.
moment this code isn't actually on your repository at the moment, is it?
no.
No. So it's one of them. That's why with this one here, I'm convinced I can push that up to 4 servos. There's 2 more lines that I know will work as output, but they wouldn't work as inputs.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So in theory, I could go to 4, but before I actually make a 4 servo version available, I need to do testing. But this is why things sometimes are taking a little bit of time to, because obviously we changed this approach with the example and put the extra, like, but having seen the nano there, it was like, oh, we can actually run potentially 24. It gave us more available, but I think to be fair, I'm more keen for developing the ESP32, and then if for the likes, if the Pico and the CAN bus side of it is doable, then that becomes possible, worthwhile looking at adding. But at the moment, I'm conscious David is working with Bob for the FRAM or the
Storage, yeah.
storage, which I think is more important than pushing this on, to be honest, at the moment.